I want you to think about this question. Is it ever justifiable to break the law for a greater good? Hopefully, you've never had to think of an issue like this before. But if we explore these questions, they lead us in a number of interesting directions. We humans, from the beginning of time, have been a mixture of the good and the bad. Me, Mog, want your cave. Me hit you with rock and take your cave. Now, Mog's cave. This is just how we are made. You can watch any 2-year-old with a new toy for proof of this. You have what I want, I hit and take it. Right and wrong, good and bad, in these situations might be incredibly clear. However, because our world is so complex, the lines between what's right and what's wrong often become blurry. Our world is turbulent and divided in things like the news, social media, or where you get your information from can alter our perceptives of reality and our perceptions of morality. Our beliefs are solidified by our own real-life experiences, and events can change the way people view things. Given the right circumstances, these changes can affect ideas that were previously established as wrong. So, how can events change the moral compass, and how can they allow people to see deeper into issues that they hadn't empathized with before? So, I guess the question is, what's right and wrong, and who defines it? Who or what? Before we start blurring the lines, let's anchor ourselves in something more familiar. Let's point out 3 points that society has collectively agreed are bad. Please raise your hands if you can agree on the following statements. Murder is wrong, theft and robbery is wrong, and vandalism and destruction is wrong. Right, all of us. Thank you. Let's take our first point, murder. Something we can all agree is wrong to some extent. But how has history challenged that? Giulia Tofana was born in 1620 Italy and sold what she called acqua tofana, a poison, to women who wanted to get rid of their husbands, likely because of abuse or adultery. She has claimed the lives of, wait for it, over 600 men. She can be seen as a murderer or as somebody who decided to take action and help women who were trapped in unlawful and abusive marriages, which were all common at the time. Again, she can be seen as a murderer or as a hero. A more modern case of this is that of Luigi Mangione, who just last December was accused of killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. He claimed that it was because of the parasitic tendencies of US healthcare companies. Again, he can be seen as a murderer or as someone who decided to take action against something unfair that was harming the community. Let's move on to our next point, theft. Again, something that society views as bad, until it isn't. The Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI was an activist group created in the 70s made up of 7 people who broke into an FBI office in a little town called Media in Pennsylvania and stole over 1,000 classified documents before exposing them to the public. This led to the exposure of the COINTELPRO, which was a set of illegal projects aimed at infiltrating and surveilling communities and individuals who were thought to be threats. These include Black communities, anti-war activists, and individuals like Muhammad Ali, Pablo Picasso, Martin Luther King Jr., and 5 US presidents. Another example of this is the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, known as one of the biggest unsolved art heists in history and happened only back in the 90s. Burglars left with 13 works valued up to $500 million. It's suspected that the reasoning behind this was reclaiming stolen art and making sure that art that was acquired under questionable circumstances was finally given justice. Some believe that stealing art disrupts the cycle of wealth concentration and elitism, which can explain why something bad was done for a good cause or to combat a controversial outcome. The partakers of the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI have been granted the status of local honors in the little town of Media, Pennsylvania. They stole from one of the most important and secretive organizations in the entire United States of America and arguably the world, yet they were rewarded. Isn't that curious? That brings us to our last point: vandalism and destruction. Visually disruptive, chaotic, and yet incredibly meaningful. Vandalism and destruction is argued to destroy our cities, our communities, our man-made wonders. It's a crime, therefore it should be bad. However, like all, there are exceptions. Exceptions like Banksy, a street artist whose famous graffiti works involving political and social commentary decorate the streets of the world's biggest cities. Graffiti is combated in many ways, including judicial action. But is this justified if graffiti expresses important messages, like the need to change inequalities or raise awareness of current political issues? Not to mention, vandalism and destruction are all characteristics of some of the world's biggest and most important protests, like the women's suffrage movement, which involved breaking windows, setting fires, and general civil disobedience, however, all under the guise of helping women get votes, therefore becoming equal citizens to their male counterparts. If I saw my building being shattered and burnt, I would be mortified, as would all of us. However, people often think that it's for a wicked cause. Somebody intentionally wants to cause harm. But what if that's not the case? Crime and bad things are typically categorized and boxed up, and there's a very fine line in between what makes it in and what doesn't. Sometimes things are categorized as something that they might not be, because the purpose of that fire, shattered window, or drawing on the wall might be something that is beyond our knowledge and maybe beyond our comprehension of the world. Now, think back to the 3 statements that we discussed above and see if you've changed your perspective. It's important to note that there are things that can cause harm, things that are bad. But what if the real crime isn't in questioning the rules? It's refusing to question them at all. Again, things can cause harm, things can be bad, and things can be horrifying. However, nothing is objectively wrong. There are always exceptions, perspectives, and a turning point for every situation. Something that determines the moral compass of the world, and something that changes people's minds on how things are not what they seem. The world isn't black and white. It's just difficult to see the shades of gray in between. But that is what we must be challenged to do. Thank you.